Hello, everybody. It's the Apocalypse Podcast. It's been a while since we've done one of these. Apologies. It's been about a month. But anyways, I'm one co-host, Kyle, and with me is my bro, Tay. Say hey.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah, we had a podcast last week that we were going to do on the movie Companion, which stunk fucking shit. And I realized after talking for like an hour and a half, my Audacity had frozen 8 minutes in. Because usually I just like hit record and minimize it. And didn't open it back up till we were almost done, thinking, oh, cool, I'll just hit stop. We're done. Yay. And it froze and the whole thing got fucking canned. So it's been a long time since we released one of these. But finally, we're here.
Can't put white men in charge.
Yes, true. We're back. So today is going to be a video game themed one, but it's kind of interesting. And Taylor came up with this idea, so I'm going to let him explain what we're going to do today. Go.
All right. So instead of a normal review of a thing we either like or don't like, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of pose scenarios of would you do this or this in a game? And just kind of talk about what we would prefer and why, or maybe some examples of why we like it or think it's good or think it's bad. It will make sense as soon as I do the very first one, but it's just
You're talking about game designs, game design choices.
Yeah, exactly. And this is just kind of, because we never really talked about kind of more broadly speaking things we do or don't like or find interesting. And as I've gotten older, it's like I play less stuff because the things that I find that I do like I am more aware of very clearly the very narrow aspects of things that tickle my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm right there.
I thought I'd ask this stuff. Ironically, I can tell you what actually inspired this is the greatest game of all time came out in April this year, Kyle.
Claire Obscura.
Obscure Expedition 33. Yes. Easily top 5 game of all time for me. Like, I don't know. It'd be hard to not put it at number 1 or number 2.
It really it seems amazing.
I literally beat the game and then just started a new game. I've never done that. And I'm already like 7 hours into the second playthrough.
Is there a new game plus?
Yes, there is.
But you just did a new game?
Because it's complicated, but I couldn't beat the super boss because I had made a lot of choices very, very early on that like made it tough. But New Game Plus, it's like I could have corrected those errors, but now I'd have to fight the super boss on New Game Plus health scaling. And a lot of what makes my build work is it's a glass cannon where basically I do a couple billion damage before your opponent gets a turn. But if they hit you once, you explode.
Did they nerf, they nerf that? I read something.
Yeah.
That, like,
oh, by the way, that's post nerf. It still isn't.
Okay.
Still broken.
Okay.
It's just like you have to do a little bit of setup. You kind of have to build a little bit more. You have to earn it. But I also was just kind of like, I don't know, fuck it. Let's do this now that I know what builds are good, what characters are good, what things are good. How fast can I beat it? And I don't know. I'm so obsessed with it that I'm just like, I'll play it again. I'm kind of saving New Game Plus for some like better UI stuff, because like there's like hundreds of skills and it's all just alphabetical. There's not a lot of like sort by things that increase melee damage or sort by like health increases. It's just by number of like points it takes to equip and alphabetically where it takes place in. So but in this game, it's made with Unreal Engine. I think it's 5. I don't know what the newest Unreal Engine, and they can do massive landscapes really well. But the game has designed a lot of the maps, the like dungeons, to be very maze-like. They kind of wind in and out. They create shortcuts that loop in, kind of like a Bloodborne and Dark Souls, like that type of overworld map design where like windy paths fold back in on themselves to create shortcuts and stuff like that. But the designers intentionally did not include a mini-map to look at. They said specifically they wanted you to be looking at the screen to figure it out and like look for landmarks and like find your own visual language in there. And that made me think about it. I was like, oh, you have to sacrifice quality of life here, convenience, for a better gameplay immersion type experience that might turn some people off or find it annoying. So that led me into thinking of like, well, which do I prefer, mini maps or no mini map in a a section like this. And so that was the very first one. And my experience is that I am very, very, very lazy. And that if you give me a tool to make something easier, I'm going to use it every time. But if you never provide it to me, I don't notice if it's not there. So the fact that these mini maps weren't here, I didn't feel the lack of them like detrimental. But if they were there, I would be staring at them and never learn the geometry. And I have to imagine that some of the majesty of why I got sucked up into that world so much was that I was able to suspend my disbelief and just be locked in to these performances, to these characters, to these environments and stuff like that. So, Kyle, I pose to you.
Yeah.
You're playing fucking Diablo, you're playing Borderlands, you're playing something. You hit tab and you get a mini map. Do you prefer that or games that would prefer, like, want you to figure shit out? Because you played Elden Ring. You know there's no mini map in Elden Ring. So you've experienced both sides at least of some of that. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's interesting because while you were talking about this, I, of course, specifically thought of Diablo 3, and I wrote that down as something to bring up if we didn't circle back to it. And here you are directly asking me about it. So that's great. Diablo 3 is an interesting case of them providing a bigger map that you have to hit tab to open, but it's not an overlay. It's a separate screen. So when you open up the bigger map, you can't control your character underneath it. The game effectively stops. It doesn't pause though, which is the other annoying thing. So you can hit tab to pull up this big map, and then enemies will keep attacking you if you didn't clear them. So Diablo 3, I think, is a case of doing it incredibly incorrectly and wrong. They give you it's like, I guess let me clarify. Diablo 3 is an ARPG top-down. You're controlling your character and moving around. They have a minimap in the very top corner of the screen, but it is small, so you can only see a little bit further ahead, so it doesn't give you all the information that you really need to plan out where you're going, especially in an ARPG where you end up moving lightning fast, teleporting constantly and zipping around the screen with speed boosts and power boosts and blowing everything up. So having this tiny, tiny map in the top corner just doesn't give you it doesn't give you what you need really. So you want that overlay, which something like Path of Exile provides, and Diablo 2 even provided, where it's sort of a transparent layout of the map that's literally in the center of your screen. It sounds very obscuring, distracting, but it actually isn't because you can, because it's pretty faded. So in Path of Exile, I'm looking at the game, I'm looking at the screen, at the game, at my character controlling it, but then I see just kind of a faint outline of the whole area I'm in overlaid right on top of where I'm looking. It's crazy describing this. It sounds awful, but it's not bad.
This does also sound insane. It'd be indecipherable.
But you know what I'm talking about from Diablo 2, right? You just hit tab, you open up that map, and you play the game, and you don't think about it. It's almost like changing your focus, right? You can focus out and look at the map to see where you need to go, but then you can focus back in and look at your character and look at the enemies on screen, look at the items dropping, etc. So it's blended. It's weird. So anyways, Diablo 3 decided to do the worst of both, give you a minimap in the top corner that's way too small to provide any legitimate information, but then they give you the option to hit tab and open up a larger map that does give you the information, but it is a new menu screen that you cannot control your character through, so you have to stand there like a dope and look at this to figure out where you're going. So, my long-winded point, I guess, is that you're saying Diablo 3 did the worst of both worlds, where they needed to do one or the other. Either not give you this map at all and just make you use the minimap and discover the world yourself, or just give you the transparent overlay where you can, like Path of Exile or even its predecessor, Diablo 2, where you can just play the game and see this kind of transparent map overlaying your play area. I don't know why they went with this middle-of-the-road option that was just awful and the worst of both, and they never, ever updated it, which is also surprising because the game, it still makes seasons. People still play Diablo 3. It's been out for fucking more than 10 years. I don't know why they didn't just give us an overlay, but it's awful. So, my thoughts are, I think I agree with Claire Obscura. force people to use the tool they have. Don't give them like a shitty version of one or the other, like Diablo 3 did. If you're going to go the Path of Exile Diablo route, great. Give us a transparent map that overlays the screen and can let us plan ahead a little bit while also actively playing the game. Or just take that away, give us a minimap, and if the minimap doesn't provide you enough information, then maybe that's fine because you just look at the game instead. But then maybe it's like, why do you even have a minimap if it's not good enough? So maybe get rid of it altogether. Maybe that's my thought. Took me 5 minutes to say, but I think either no minimap at all or the screen overlay transparent one that gives you the information you need. One of those two.
Yeah. So the way that Clear Obscure does is they have an option to, you can basically hit triangle and it'll pull up like your party's HP, like it'll just be like kind of like a screen overlay that comes up. It'll be like your objective in the top left to be like, head to the mossy fields to stop this character. Okay, that's my quest objective. And your character status and their health in the bottom right. In the bottom left, there's a compass. And it just
compass is great.
And that is all. And then you have a world map that you can pull up if you're on the world map. But if you're in a dungeon, you can't. What I was in a dungeon today that at the center there are 4 branching paths. 3 are optional. One's the critical path. And so what I had to remember is the critical path is the north exit. So anytime I'm headed south, I'm headed towards that set. And because of that, I was able to know when I have found things in a way that I didn't think would be helpful. Because I'm someone that would normally have wanted like a very detailed mini map. But my only complaint with this system is I never know what I have already explored. And so my takeaway is that minimaps aren't nearly as important as I would think, but I would love a good way to know where I have been already to save me time. Because I don't think the goal of not giving you a minimap is to make you feel lost as much as forcing you to understand where you are. But it can, if you have repeating images, it can be easy just to get lost, which I don't think is the goal.
I think Elden Ring did it fantastically. And I'm realizing too, while we're talking about this as well, ARPGs are quite different than like action role-playing games, which ironically is what they are.
Because of the perspective, mainly, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. You are very confined in ARPGs because it's a bird's eye view. So they only let you see, north, east, southwest, a certain distance, right? So like your character's in the center of the screen and you control him, point and click. But third-person perspective, which is what Elden Ring is and Clair Obscura is a lot different because you can see so far ahead. It's basically slightly different than first person. But imagine in real life, like instead of being able to look straight in a direction, it's like you're only able to look down at your feet to control where you move, right? Like that would be way more confining. So Elden Ring did it really, really well, where like you said, they have no minimap. You can pull up a big overlay map, and it has a fog of war, which gets dissolved as you discover areas. Does Clair Obscura do something like that?
Nope. There is no way to know ever how big or small a zone you are in is. There's just no way to know.
That's okay. I think that's probably where they would have benefited with like an Elden Ring style map with the fog of war, where it's a world map. You can zoom out super far. You can zoom in super far to where your specific character is, and the map is like foggy and obscured, but once you go into the area, that fog and obscurity is revealed and cleansed, and then you can suddenly see like the terrain. You can see little cave entrances. You can see minimap icons. So,
and to just as the problem with no, it doesn't matter. This is specific to Clair Obscura. It doesn't matter. Ignore me. Continue.
Okay. Well, that was basically my point, is that I think Elden Ring, I'm glad you brought that up because it's similar to Clair Obscura, and I think it did the map system beautifully. Like, you never feel like you need a minimap, especially because Elden Ring is so gorgeous. The art direction is phenomenal. Like, each zone is so distinct that you generally know where you are, and there's a lot of really cool, iconic landmarkers that let you go like, oh, that's that huge tree that goes there, and it's like, oh, that's that ruined temple that's like in this area. I kind of know where I am now. Like, oh, this is when the sand turns red instead of white. Like, okay, now I know what zone I'm entering. they did a lot of cool stuff like that to let you know where you are, even without having to pull up the map. And then, of course, you can pull up the map to find out anyway. So, this is a cool discussion. I guess I don't know. I think I answered the question earlier, but like,
I think so.
Yeah,
what we're learning is mini-map. We seem to be in agreement that like having the bare bones skeleton is really all you want. As you fill in more detail, it becomes a little too much of a crutch, and trying to go halvesies in on it makes it worse than just having a bare bones. Okay, I like that. Now, this is the one that I feel the most passionate about.
Okay, next topic.
It's actually not that interesting. But speaking of Diablo, fixed loot versus randomized loot. How do you feel about there being a finite number of... It's kind of like, I think Diablo 3 did both of this, where I guess Diablo 4, like the uniques are they have the exact, like, you know what you're getting, versus a legendary, which it could be hundreds of affixes. You know, Borderlands, even Destiny and Destiny 2, I think, is a funny comparison. They started with fixed loot. The raid drops, these are the guns that come out of here, and these are the guns, these are the stats on them. And then later they're like, actually, they could roll with any number of perks. How do you feel about, in your loot games, would you rather there be 500 finite pieces or 2 million randomized pieces? And anything could be randomized, anything could be gold, but anything could be dog shit.
Well, I guess if you're giving me a scenario where I have to pick one or the other, I would guess randomized. I would say that because it just gives you, you know, more replayability. But I think in today's day and age, most games mix finite with randomized loot very well. Like, I do really like being able to count on a unique having a specific set of stats and getting really excited to get that unique. While there's still randomization and like maybe you always know this item is going to roll with strength, but the number of the strength changes, or like this item always rolls with a % chance to do something, but that % chance changes. Like, that's what can add the fun to the fixed loot kind of thing. Destiny is cool to bring up. I only played Destiny 1 when it came out, when it was in its worst state, and I like grinded it like crazy for about 3 to 6 months. I don't even remember anymore. But I tried Destiny 2 and got really bored. I tried Destiny 1. No, I didn't even try Destiny 1 after they updated it and made it better. Correct. But anyways, like,
yeah.
I don't know. I think going into a raid and kind of knowing what's going to come out of it is good. But I also know that if you want people to replay your game, you can't have permanent fixed loot. So most games, I believe, do a huge mix. So I guess maybe I can ask you, is there games you have in mind that do one or the other that you like or don't like? Because in my experience, the games I play have a mix of both, and I like the way they do it. So
I suppose it's more of when I pose this question, it's more of at the core. Like Diablo 2, like Diablo 4, you would assume is like there's randomized loot. There is some fixed loot, but the core of that game is about randomized loot.
Yes.
Right? So when you talk about in that game, I would call that randomized in that kind of scenario. So it's more about what is the core experience. And I'd say like Destiny 1, when you played, fixed. Destiny 2 now, randomized. Even though they do have both. So it's more about what is your bread and butter, what is the core experience versus like, you know, having sets is obviously one thing, but so you get the taste of that thing, but what is the primary meal of your game? Like, is the loot going to be randomized or is it going to be fixed?
I guess it just has to be randomized. Based on the games I play, pretty much I have to have randomized loot, right? Like, because I love ARPGs so much that if it was all fixed loot and I knew I was getting the same kind of thing over and over from certain things, you couldn't play them. It has to be randomized. That's just how the game operates. So it makes me think of older games, right? Where I don't think technology, like they just didn't have the procedural generation technology at the time. But I'm thinking of Super Mario RPG specifically, for the Super Nintendo, where it was an RPG, but the items were absolutely fixed. And you had to go do specific things to find this specific item that made your character good. or better, I should say. And that was really fun in its own way. So I almost think you can't say one or the other. I think it has to be the type of game you're playing. Like, I'm also thinking of Jak and Daxter, right? Where you would find the new guns.
Okay. All right. I think that is fair. So let's reframe these questions to be not necessarily which one is better for a game to have, but Kyle, you get to decide the game you're dreaming up is at a decision point. You decide for you which one of these would make the game more fun in your mind. I want a game that has this. When a game says it has this type of loot in it, I get more excited. You know, like think about which one you just like to hear more.
Yeah, randomized for sure.
Yeah. So, and for me, it's the opposite because of the exact reason you are excited about randomized. I could say like, oh, copy, Control C, Control V. Those are the reasons I don't want. Because, like, for me, I have found the when they open the games to be endless, I find it to be impenetrably, like, impossible to feel like I'm making a meaningful, large-scale, exciting improvements. Because I find having 1,000 numbers you tweak a little bit at a time all the time doesn't feel as good as going from, like, getting a 50% increase to this move. You know, like this gun is like 25% more powerful, you know, that kind of clear. And maybe it's because I don't like to min-max. Like the fussing over small numbers to me is like almost like the antithesis of what I like in my numbers-driven games. I think I find when you have fixed loot, it's much more finite. Like, when things drop, it feels more curated. And I guess I just like more curated experiences. And it's like, I like randomization in my games, but I don't like randomization within randomization within randomization. And that's what it feels like. And it just, you can't lock down enough of those different levers at a time for me to feel good about a lot of loot in that way. And like, I don't know. I never invest more than what is asked of me to complete games anymore. So for me, it's definitely fixed loot for making my limited time I have with your thing much more impactful and interesting. And I just don't. I find when stuff is randomized, it's just like,
yeah, it's random. Yeah,
yeah, and like when you do random. No, that's too like specifics to like games and stuff. But in general, I'm a big fan, and then also that tends to be what the MMO like loot patterns and like that type of escalating power progression is kind of like it just scratches something in me subconsciously. I really like. Anything else to add about loot?
No. I mean, I think it is very, very game dependent. You couldn't do randomized loot in something, you know, like Claire Obscura. I just don't think it would be good. So, and if you did fixed loot in a you know, grindy ARPG, you'd get bored really fast. So I think it's hard to say that, like, you know, I just like one more than the other. I think I tend to lean towards randomized loot just because of the games I play, and the games require the randomized loot in order to be played in the way that I like to play them. If that makes sense. So yeah. I absolutely see the merit in both, and I love both, depending on the game, but I do like randomized loot more just because of the way I play games. The story-driven linear kind of games, I just can't play anymore. I don't know if it's because of just like, you know, like you mentioned earlier, just being older and knowing what I like and don't like. And I just, Baldur's Gate 3, for example, is such a good fucking game, but I can't bring myself to like open the game and commit time to it. I need a game that I can drop in, play for 30 minutes if I want, or play for 7 hours straight if I want. And a game like almost Claire Obscura sounds like a game like, what the fuck game did I just mention? My brain just turned off.
I thought those were the only games you really mentioned.
No, I just mentioned one. Well, anyways, like, yeah, the heavy story-driven game. Oh, Baldur's Gate 3. That's what I was.
Oh, duh.
Like, it's such the heavy immersive games I just can't find myself wanting to set the time aside for anymore. It's so much of a commitment.
That's funny because like that's how I feel about these like account driven endless games where you always are making progression on some character and some account, some battle pass, and I see the menus and the fucking currencies and the different timers and quests and dailies and resets. I'm just like, holy shit, I feel like an 80-year-old man overstimulated at a casino.
No, I mean those are the that's like the snaky corporate shit to hook you and addict you, but I can ignore that stuff very easily.
Oh no, I'm saying I am agreeing with you in that like that's the stuff that in my brain I get fatigued by, but it's like the more complex a game is to me nowadays, it's like I just want you to do one thing exceptionally well and that's it. I don't need your system to have like 8 subsystems that then have tweak. I used to be the opposite though. Like I wanted every game to be everything all the time. But it's interesting. I would never recommend like it's a Clair Obscur to me is like a game I wish you could have played. Like you have experience. Like I could just give you the experience.
I mean, I
and
could.
You would have been like, man, this fucking rules. But I knew like I feel like you would have almost like a bias going into it, knowing what it would be and stuff. It's like it would be kind of hard for anyone to kind of push through. Like, oh, like it might take a while to get going. And what if you think that this isn't that good? But like, if it clicked, man, I promise.
Oh, I'm sure it would. I've watched gameplay of it. It looks great.
Dude, did you see that? It's so good. Okay, I got to figure out a way to talk at you about that game because there are a few games that like have had an impact on me the way that this particular game has. Because I feel like a lot of people exaggerate how much they like the newest cool thing. But anywho, we're going to move off this one because we are at almost 30 minutes and we've
talked about two things.
So I'm looking here.
If you have a long list, like maybe just narrow it down to like just a few more of the high value ones. I'm going to try to
do that. And maybe we'll do something like this in the future because like I have lots of like specific game system things I could pick your brain about.
Yeah, this is fun.
Okay, this one I think is an interesting one. And that first, I'm going to ask you, Kyle, can you tell me the difference between a roguelite and a roguelike?
Yes, I believe a roguelite. Okay, so a roguelike, Like, is the original incarnation of a game where you do a run, you get as far as you can, and if you lose, you are 100% reset back to 0. Then, despite that being fun, it's also devastating when you lose. So the genre roguelite came out in that now it provides sort of meta progression, so you can still feel good about losing, or there's checkpoints that maybe get you back to like, 60% of where you were, but not all the way. So I believe a roguelike was the original, almost like old school just video games before they had, memory cards and save states where you just had to play the whole thing like on, NES and stuff and Atari. Like you had to play the whole game. It was only 2 hours long, but you had to beat the whole thing or you just lost. That's basically a roguelike. But now there's roguelites where there is, sort of ways to make you feel good about even when you lose. I think that's my understanding.
Okay, yeah. So obviously, you know what the original roguelike game was called, right?
Wasn't it like a Metroid game? Wasn't it?
No, it's called Rogue. That's why they're roguelite. The game's literally called Rogue. So the term nowadays usually means like is, as you said, you start from scratch, but what a lot of those games will be nowadays is you will unlock new tools that can appear in future games. So the mutations of your run will change, but you don't start from a new advantageous position.
Okay.
Whereas lights give you that kind of meta progression, whether it's you starting with different weapons or you now, get extra dodge charges. Kind of Hades is like the roguelite to point to and be like, do you see that? And then Binding of Isaac is roguelike, where that one is just you start from zero every. So let's Slay the Spire, another one. There's no progression, but there are
Yeah,
more
I was thinking
relics.
about that when I was talking about it. I was like, wait, Slay the Spire doesn't have any meta progression, really.
Isn't it interesting? Is that like I've always thought it did, but it doesn't.
Yeah, you restart the run every time. Yeah, that's true.
Because I was going to ask you, which of those two are the ones you prefer?
Roguelite probably because I like power progression. That's why I love ARPGs. I mean, that's just like, power progression is the genre basically. That's what you do is you start from weak little guy and you grow to destroy the entire screen every, quarter second. So a roguelite certainly appeals more to me. I get very frustrated if I lose something and I have to restart back from zero. Although, again, as we're saying, Slay the Spire, I played hundreds of hours of that, and I just am now realizing, like, oh yeah, if you lose, you're done. You go back to zero, but I still love that game. So a roguelike, depending on how it's done, can be good. I guess you unlock cards and stuff, which is what you were talking about. You unlock things for the future run, but you don't necessarily start more powerfully. But that's what a roguelite is, which is what I do enjoy. Something like Risk of Rain, where you unlock new abilities for your character, so you can start the run in a different state than the normal base, right? You have a new ability. Maybe it's stronger for you because of your playstyle or something. But Risk of Rain 2 is similar to more close to roguelike than light. Probably very annoying to hear these words over a microphone. But yeah, I think I prefer light more, for sure. So and that's something like Soulstone Survivors or no, Vampire Survivor is probably a like, isn't it? Roguelike.
It's technically it's much more of a like than a light because the meta progression in that is like I'd say it gives you at the end of the day like maybe at 20% like kind of increase in power, and then it's not as like kind of focused at the core, but it is and that's the big thing is a lot of them there's very few that aren't both now.
Yeah,
because it used to be that roguelites were just meta progression, no new like build options, but now it's both in almost every game ever. I don't know of any game I can think of that doesn't have a like start from scratch, new options of pure in runs, and you get more health. It's almost all in the Slay the Spire likes, the rogue, the deck builders that tend to maybe not have progression. Because with card games, sometimes it can be harder to tweak small numbers, especially when you consider like energy and stuff.
It's funny you asked the question, but then I feels like I can't answer it because the game genres are so mixed now that I can't. I love both in their own way, apparently, and I didn't even really realize it. I just kind of consider them all in the same vein. But yeah, I do love meta progression. I'm the type that gets frustrated if I lose a lot, which is why I cannot play extraction shooters. They are like a hell spawn.
In the Discord call with you in that's for sure.
Yeah, they're like the hellspawn version of a rogue like, where not only do you like start back from zero, but if you go in with stuff and die, you lose the stuff you went in with. So like you restart in a worse state than you went in sometimes, and like that to me is beyond infuriating. I can't like. And especially because of my love for ARPGs, like, oh, the loot dropped right there, I picked it up, and now I have it. Extraction shooters are like, oh, look, there's cool loot, you pick it up, now you gotta get out of here, and if someone kills you, you lose the loot. So it's almost like, I guess it'd be like playing on hardcore if you get something, but it's not quite the same, because every single run, you have the ability to die and lose everything you found. And like, gaining loot and being excited about cool stuff and having that ripped away from you, it just feels like I'm a baby with candy getting it taken away, like, what the fuck, man? I can't play those games. So
interesting. I was curious because you seem like you're so close to being an extraction shooter lover.
No, I can't do it. Cannot do it. Although the new game Arc Raiders looks very fun for an extraction shooter, and guess what? It has meta progression, so that people like me can play, and like if I lose something, it's like, oh, I still gained experience towards this skill, or oh, I gained, material towards rebuilding this thing. So like you'll, from all the gameplay I've seen, it seems like even if you die, you still come out with something, and that feels really good. It seems like a perfect it seems like the extraction shooter that's finally made for somebody like me, that it seems like I should like it, but the pain points of the extraction genre are too great for me to overcome in the current games that are available. But Arc Raiders seems like it might be fixing that, where like your starting kit is just strong enough so that if you die, like you can go back into a raid and still feel decently powerful with the base kit, where a lot of games is like, you have to go in with a pistol and 5 ammo. Good luck. And it's like, what the fuck is the point of even playing if it's like, I'm fighting against people who have god tier armor and shit, and they kill me in one bullet from across the map. Like, fuck this. Anyways, like you wanting to talk about Clair Obscura, this is going to turn into a different podcast if I talk about extraction shooters, I guess. So,
I know, not a big Tarkov guy. Is what I'm hearing.
Despise it. I didn't even play Tarkov. I was excited for it when it was first announced like 10 years ago, but the developers are scumbags, and the game looks awful to play. I've heard nothing but bad things about it. Even from the people who are hopelessly addicted and can't stop playing it, they're all like, do not play this game. Like, it's like League of Legends players. They play it because they're addicted, but they don't ever recommend it to anybody. That's what I get from Tarkov.
Wow,
basically.
How beautiful.
Yeah, it's awful. So... anyways, roguelite versus roguelike. I guess I've played both and I love both. Most games are a combo of both. If I had to pick one, it would be the light, where I actually get something out of each run, much like Hades. I mean, Hades is honestly one of my all-time favorite games. It's so perfectly made. So yeah, light for me.
Yeah, I Rogue Legacy in like 2000. I was living at mom's house still. Crazy. Was the first roguelite game I ever played. It was just, you pick a randomly generated knight that would try to like beat this really, really hard side-scrolling like castle, but you get money as you went up through it. And then when you would inevitably die, you go to this menu where you could spend the money you found during your journey on various skills and classes and all those. So there would never be new like builds coming up, but you just kept getting stronger and stronger, and that let you, survive, make more mistakes, reduce the amount of time you're in combat because you're killing things faster. And ever since then, I've been obsessed with that genre, and I'm so glad it's popular. It's everywhere. It feels like the same way it did when RPG elements started to bleed into everything. Like, it was just like finally people respecting the best part of video games to me. And maybe it's a little overboard now, but like, I just remember being very happy when fucking Call of Duty 4 online RPG leveling up your account. Like, that was such a big
the prestige
deal.
system. Yeah, I mean, that was like pretty revolutionary. I mean, I think it was actually the game that kind of started the grind.
It is
giving you something to grind when you're just killing people.
Yeah, what I'll say, it's the Blizzard effect, where I guarantee you it's not first, but it's certainly the most popular.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
There's too many weird games that we never would have played. We were like, what, fucking in high school when that came out? There were a decade of video games. I guess you would have been a freshman. Sophomore.
Yeah, I was a frosh.
Yeah. Speaking about freshmen.
Wait, frosh, soph, June, scene. No, I was in 8th grade in 2006.
No wonder you were so...
Yep, that's true.
Okay.
Speaking of... okay, move on. Go next.
Okay.
Speaking of the roguelike mantra, go next.
I don't know if any of these are going to generate large conversations until they do, so I'm going to go with ones that I think will be quick hitters.
We've talked for 40 minutes strong feelings about three, so I think we
I don't have that many. Trust me. You got to trust me, Kyle. Shut the fuck up. What is the optimal number of cards to have for your card game?
10.
Is it 10?
I was just trying to answer it quickly. I don't know. That's a weird question. That massively depends on the game, but...
Man, Magic the Gathering, is 7 the right number of cards in your hand, or do you wish
You're talking about opening hand? Not even like deck size? Opening hand?
Yeah, what is the starting hand size that, like... hear that number and you're like, oh, okay. Because, like, if I hear your opening hand size is like 4, I'm like, nah, I'm out. Fuck that. Either cards do too much or not enough.
Yeah,
And if you do, like, double digits, I'm like, there's too many cards going on here. So, to me, if it's between 5 and 7, I'm like, all right, you've got me. This is just, at least you have the foundation correct. I told you, I'm a weirdo. I think
Yeah.
about each of these things. So
I
I was
think
just curious.
I think 7 is great. Because Slay the Spire is another example here where they start you off with 5 cards. And it can feel very limiting, especially with the energy mechanic on top of it, or discarding. Suddenly I've discarded 2 cards and I have like nothing to play. Or yeah, so I have found 5 cards in Slay the Spire to be pretty annoying a lot of times. Whereas when you get a card that lets you draw extra, or you start with more cards in your hand, then I'm like, yes, I have 6 cards to play, or even 7. It's like, this feels better. So obviously my bias towards Magic, but I think 7 cards is a really, really good starting number of cards. 6
Okay,
is close, but 7 is probably the best.
All right, so Richard Garfield comes onto TV and with an assault rifle, and he says, "I've copyrighted and claimed drawing cards at the start of your turn. No further games in the history of mankind will allow this. What is the next best time to draw your card for your turn, if not at the beginning of your turn?"
It's got to be the end. Smash up, you draw at the end of the turn, and it feels pretty good.
So I was thinking about, like, it's tough because, like, how else do you say besides, well, if it's not at the beginning, it's at the end, right? So I was like, what would a system look like that wouldn't be either of those options? And what I thought is, like, what if there was, imagine a Magic where instead of drawing the start of your upkeep, you just draw at the start of your main phase 2.
Right, after combat, after...
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you attacked or not, but, like, that would be kind of like the breaking point between those two phases, and, like, there would almost, so you wouldn't have your full turns information before combat. Like, I don't know. I was just trying to think what could be an interesting thing, but I do find that if you don't draw cards at the start of your turn, I break your rule all the time in games. I just accidentally draw at the start of my turn. It's instinct.
Yeah.
So if it's at the end, I always mess it up, or in a game, I just forget a card comes then. Bad.
Well, Netrunner was really cool in that drawing cards was it was like a resource. I mean, it could be, but it was more a resource where you could spend clicks every turn, and spending a click lets you do a certain action. So you could just spend 3 clicks and draw 3 cards, but then you wouldn't get to do anything else. Or you'd have to spend a click to gain a money, or you'd have to spend a click to spend money to buy a card. So, like, the click was the resource that let you draw cards, but it also was a shared resource among other important actions. So
I think all you're highlighting
really cool.
is how good Netrunner is.
I mean, yes, God,
else.
Netrunner is like probably the coolest card game ever made. But
I always think it's funny is that, like, what makes a game a weeb card game to me is if your deck is your life as well. Almost all of the like
Sure.
really popular ones are. I don't know why. It's just the thing.
That's funny.
But, like, in most Western popular card games, like, I guess that's not fair because Yu-Gi-Oh is. But most card games that you can think of are not like that.
Yeah. No, I think if you don't have the draw at the start of the turn, of course, drawing at the end is good. But if you didn't want that system either, I think giving players an alternate resource that let them either draw or do something else. I also had a brief flash in my head of, like, what if you draw your card after you play the first card of your turn? But then it's like, what if you're kind of stuck on cards and you can't really play one? So then the person falling behind falls behind even more because they can't draw more. But then it's like, if that is the system in your game, you probably have it built so that you're never at a point where you just can't play cards. So, like, yeah, maybe you draw a card after the first card you play every turn, and then build your game around an idea where, like, you always have a card to play. Give players clicks, some kind of alternate resource to spend so that they can get cards. Yeah, there's a lot of cool ideas, but if you had to keep it simple, yeah, just draw at the end of the turn if you can't draw at the beginning. Would you rather have?
So, would you rather? Sorry, I know I stuttered on that one.
You better apologize. No stuttering allowed.
Would you prefer Netrunners, like, you have a resource you share across all of your actions, but one of them is drawing a card, but there's no free card each turn? Like, do you prefer just, like, one every turn, no way to versus you get to choose how many a turn? It could be 0, it could be 3.
I think I really prefer the free card. There was it certainly adds to the depth of the game, and that's why Netrunner's so cool. But there were absolutely times where it's like, fuck, man, I wish I could just draw one card here and then do my stuff. But that's part of the whole game. Is like that's what you're having to manage, so you need to make that trade off. So yeah,
you know what's interesting about that trade off though is it's very psychological because like imagine if instead they give you every turn one less click. Take out, draw a card, and it for free makes you draw a card every turn. Like you would like the idea is like that wouldn't solve your emotion. Like if it's more about like a psychological knowing you have to spend a finite resource instead of it, it becomes your problem instead of the game's problem. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But you could also, if you did that, then you wouldn't be able to draw multiple cards a turn, which is something you can do in Netrunner. You can just spend your whole turn to refill your hand. So if you get rid of drawing for clicks and just draw one instead, it's a whole different issue. So it was a very cool system. It just could be frustrating, but that's just part of the game. And that's part of randomized drawing, where sometimes you're just not drawing the right cards. You really need more cards, but then you need your actions to get the money because you can't do the effects of other cards. Yeah, you can just get screwed, but man, Netrunner's so dope. But yeah, I draw. I like drawing. I like the free draw.
I don't know if you're going to have thoughts on that. What is the optimal team versus team sizes? Is it 4 people? Is it 6? 5?
3? Man, yeah. So I have played quite a few PvP games over my time. I mean, Apex Legends is still like my main staple PvP game. If I need my kind of competitive shooter fix, I play Apex. I don't play MOBAs anymore. I don't play, they're too kind of long form. But yeah, I don't know. That's a crazy question. I don't know that I've ever played like a 4v4 competitive game, so I don't know what that feels like. I know from what I've read, Overwatch turned to shit when it turned into 6v6 instead of 5v5. So that's a case for going against 6 players. League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm, Dota, they're all 5 play. Wait, is Dota 2 6 players?
I was going to ask you if all the MOBAs have the same number of players. I kind of assume, but I'll look up what the player count for Dota 2 is.
Okay. I'm kind of doing it myself.
Okay. Fuck you, buddy. I didn't give a shit about you.
6v6 does not come up. 5v5 does not come up. I have no idea how many players are in Dota. The number 12, does that come up? This is really, really riveting speak. I have no idea. I think Dota is also 5v5.
There's 10. It is. It's 10
okay.
players.
So yeah, it seems like all these games are 5v5, and that's the sweet spot. If you go 6v6, it probably becomes a bit bloated.
Okay.
I like the idea of a 3v3, but I think that might be too tight and small. All kind of 3-player teams that I'm aware of are usually battle royales. You spawn in squads of 3, but you're playing against, 20 other squads of 3 versus just 6 players in a match 3v3. I don't know. I've never played a game like that. I guess like a team deathmatch, right? But no, even in team deathmatches, no, it was always 6v6 for team deathmatch. Yeah, it depends on the game mode. If it's long form battling, I think 5v5 seems to be the sweet spot. Oh, wait a minute. What about Deadlock? Deadlock is 6v6.
Oh, there you go. Deadlock is a pretty cool one. That it's kind of doing its own thing.
Yeah, Deadlock feels very new and impressive for being just a MOBA.
Did it feel like it was like you were crowded in that game in a way that like obviously you have to feel a little bit or else confrontations wouldn't happen, but that's how all MOBAs are. But like it didn't feel that much different to you emotionally. Like, no, they should reduce the number of players in this game.
No, I did not really ever think that because the map was big enough to maintain it, and they built the game around 6 players, so it felt very natural and fair to have the players there. If the map was a lot smaller, of course it would feel crowded, but then, of course, it wouldn't be 6v6. So they built it around that idea, and it feels really good. So, yeah, it really just depends on the game. I think I would prefer 5v5. It's just the right amount, the right number to manage. You have 4 other teammates you have to think about. There's 5 enemies. It's like, I think once you get into 12, it's a bit much to manage. Although, again, in Deadlock, it didn't really feel that much to manage. And I liked always having a lane partner, no matter what lane you were in. That was cool. Whereas in a 5v5 game, there's always a solo, usually even 2 or 3. Like in League, you have one top laner, one guy in jungle, one in mid lane. Then the only partnered lane is bot lane. Where in Deadlock, it's 2v2v2 in each lane, right? So you always have a lane partner kind of no matter where you go. There is a jungle in Deadlock, but it's something you kind of do in downtime versus a dedicated jungler who just moves throughout the map killing the creeps. So it's just a different style of game. Yeah, I'm not sure, man. That's cool. Good question. I don't know. Depends on the game, I guess, is my wimp out answer.
It was a trick question. The correct answer is 3v1.
Okay, cool. Like Evolve. Rip in peace.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. I love games that have an uneven number of players. When they have an asymmetrical battlefield, is my all-time favorite. It's never balanced.
I was going to say, when has that ever worked? Unfortunately,
it's just really cool. But like, I also don't like. I think balance is fucking for losers, dude. Games are never fun when they're the most balanced. And I know that it's because I don't play competitive, like obsessively competitive games.
Yeah.
So I just have more fun playing my games minute to minute than the average person. No, I just prefer. I think it's more fun when shit's not balanced. But obviously when it's competitive, it's people get all.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I'm gonna go on Steam and go not recommended.
These devs suck. Don't play this game. I have 2,000 hours. I hate it.
Yeah, just like myself.
All right.
Speaking of which, difficulty settings. Do you think that they should exist? Do you think that they should just make one difficulty? Okay, so exclude things that are just kind of like Diablo scaling, where the idea is you just keep adding difficulties to but like a more linear experience, and not necessarily like a single player game, but you get what I'm getting at here. Easy, medium, hard. Do you think they should fuck with that? Like the big conversation piece around Elden Ring. Should Elden Ring have like an easier difficult?
Hell no.
What do you think about that?
Ah, man, I like these questions, but I feel like my limp-wristed answer each time just depends on the game, because it really does. You can't just say like, oh, take out the difficulty setting in Doom, because then some people just wouldn't be able to play it. Now, that's kind of the case with Souls-like. They don't apologize for their difficulty, but there are areas.
I am not worried about the games. Like, what would be better for the game? What would be better for Kyle?
No difficulty.
There's just
no difficulty is better for me. Let me just put me in your game and let me play it and see if I can overcome it. If it's too hard, which I don't think I've ever found a game to be too hard that has had the one difficulty setting. Like I beat Elden Ring multiple times. Some bosses were harder than others, depending on the build too. Like,
what about Neo? Did you beat Neo?
Did I beat Neo? Oh, that's a good one. No, I don't think I ever did. But it's not because it was too hard. It's just because I didn't. I quit. Yeah. The first boss in Neo, hilariously, was the hardest boss I ever fought in my entire life. The guy with the wrecking ball inside the wrecked ship.
Dude,
where
I never beat him. That is a game I quit because I couldn't beat it.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I remember I counted. It took me 57 attempts to beat him, which is embarrassing. And then I remember that made me rip my hair out. I believe I kind of stopped playing Neo for a while. And when I came back with a new character and a new update or something, and I just got into that flow state and I figured him out and I beat him in 2 or 3 tries the next time. Because I realized this is one of those games where you have to get close to the enemy so that he swings his ball over your head and around you. And if you just smash his legs and get behind him, he's really easy. And once you figure it out, it suddenly becomes easy. And that's the cool thing about the Souls games is they give you a difficulty and you have to overcome it. And a lot of times if you do if you just put your head down and push through, you can figure it out and you can beat it and trivialize it when it was before, insurmountable, as Michael Scott would say. So I like the single difficulty. That's interesting anecdote here is that I actually didn't play Doom Eternal because of the multiple difficulties. I think what happened is I consider myself a very seasoned and very good first-person shooter player. So I went into Doom Eternal after playing and loving Doom 2016, beat it on Nightmare difficulty, wasn't a problem. I go into Doom Eternal and I'm like, well, it's a Doom game again. You know, there'll be a learning curve, but I can probably beat it on Nightmare, no problem. Load up Doom Eternal, start my game off on Nightmare, and I'm just getting smashed and destroyed because they actually made such a massive gameplay changes. Like the gameplay loop was just so different in Doom Eternal. They really wanted you to use all of your guns. You were running out of ammo constantly. You had to like weave in the execute stuff so that you could get your ammo back, but that required like having guns you were comfortable with in order to get the enemies into their, you know, execute state. And so then I would use a gun that I liked, but then it would run out of ammo before I could kind of get ammo back for it. And like, it was this whole new system of interacting with the enemies and the guns, and I fucking hated it, and I stopped playing. And I realized, like, wait, I could have just turned down the difficulty until I got used to the game and then racked up the difficulty as I got better. But that was the ego was that I just wanted to play on the harder difficulty because I'm good. I should be anyway, and I got my ass kicked. And then I was like, well, I'm not having fun doing this. So then I quit when, like, I might have had fun if I got used to it, but I was expecting a sequel to Doom 2016, and it felt like kind of a new game, and I just stopped playing, and it was my fault for putting the difficulty up too high. So, yeah, I think give me one difficulty that I just have to figure out, and it might have been different. Although, I don't know, if Doom Eternal was on Nightmare difficulty, let's say it just was for everybody, it was supposed to be a hard shooter, I probably would have quit in the same way and been like, I am not enjoying this, I don't like this.
Yeah, but they definitely wouldn't have tuned it to be that hard as the default.
Yeah, because like Doom 2016 was so fucking good and fun, and you could just use the guns you wanted, they had enough ammo, like, you could just beat the shit out of everything in the way you wanted to, and that's what made Doom 2016 so fun. And then Doom Eternal, they were forcing you to play their game, whereas 2016 felt like they gave you the tools to play the game the way you wanted. They kind of inverted that, and it felt really bad. It was kind of like a whiplash to me, and I really didn't like that.
The fact that Doom's The Dark Ages plays the way it does, to me, felt like they just made 3 separate games, which is really, like,
it's impressive.
Crazy that, like, because, like, they could have just made Doom 2016 2, Doom 2016 3, and they didn't, so I thought that was pretty
I give them props and kudos. What about the lore?
It's too bad that they did it.
Oh, like added lore to the Doomslayer? Yeah.
Yeah, like they kept focusing more and more. It's like each sentence you say about this character is like 80% makes him lamer.
Yeah, it's ruining it. Let him be this weird, enigmatic, mysterious dude who just kills demons and can't be stopped. It's so fun. Like, the more you tell me about him, yeah, like you said, the more it just sucks, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
He's this eternal soul that keeps getting reborn. It's like, shut the fuck up, man. Don't tell me that.
He's a weapon being used by the angels to fight a war against the dudes in hell. It's like,
be quiet.
How about you hell me off right now with your angel hole, if you know what I mean?
Dude, I know exactly what you mean. Well said.
You shouldn't, because I don't know what the fuck I just said. Difficulty settings. Kyle... Oh, so I guess my follow-up question to that is, if given the option to, like, have, like, sliders, like, instead of it just being, like...
No, that's the same
easy,
shit.
medium...
No, just one difficulty.
I am obsessed with games,
How do you feel?
I love having adjust... I love playing games that are... Breaking a game that I've struggled with, or just playing games on easy, like as like a power, just like, what does breaking this game look like I always love to do. Like, I fuck around with cheat engine and mods a lot. Like Marvel's Midnight Suns, I beat that game, I think 3 times now. That's like my 3rd favorite game of all time.
Wow.
One of the worst stories of all time, though, let me tell you. It's one of those games that's how good the gameplay loop is like everything else outside of the gameplay is so bad and I don't care. But I have a playthrough with a mod that just like gives me like 10 times the currency per fight, just so I don't have to grind things out, or like, you know, I can just see how far I can push it. I'm pushing the highest difficulties now that I couldn't do before. And shit like that. So I always love playing, having an easier mode, or a mode that I can at least like tweak with some settings. You know, Any game also that lets a parry window be extended, I will suck you off forever.
Nice.
I'll just like I'm gonna buy Clair Obscure on PC eventually and get the mod that just has like a 10 times parry window thing because I just want to see what that looks like and just like one shot parry the hardest boss when you couldn't even do it once. Like I don't know, I love like that's why I like watching speedruns too. In the same way of like I love seeing something be broken into like just a joke. It feels very. I love that. That's one of the few things I like in video games.
I always found myself bored of that. Like I would mess around with the D2 mods in the same way. Like, what does this game feel like if you get 2 skill points per level instead of 1? You know, and 10 stats instead of 5. And yeah, it trivializes the game very quickly, and it's. Turns out that kind of balance is very intentional and it feels... It might be frustrating at times, but it feels good. And if you break that, it's like, I have a lot of fun. Like, what does 10 times experience look like? I'm level 99 by the time I reach Hell Act 1. This is sweet. And then I'm bored as hell. And
yeah, and that's always what happens. It's fun for an afternoon. But for me, the big secret is like, if I can just make it like, give myself like 20% more than the game defaults to as kind of just like a breezier ride. Like when I replayed Diablo 2 for our podcast, I gave myself, I think it was double experience points.
Okay.
And I wasn't that much over leveled. Like I was probably maybe a level or 2 up, but I could just mainline. I didn't have to do any optional dungeons. I didn't have to like really scrimp and save. It was so I could experience kind of like it more in depth, but in a smaller time window. And like, that's the stuff that like the easy mode scalers sliders I love to do, or if like, you know, that's what makes I think roguelike games so fun to me is like you think about the end builds of a Diablo 2 character is kind of like the end of a run in Hades. Like when you go and fight Hades in Hades, you have your full build kitted out. It kind of feels like an end game Diablo character in some ways with how many fucking particle effects and stuff. So it kind of scratches that itch, and maybe that's why maybe I'm just like ADHD brained. I've been attention span robbed, and like roguelites have scratched the the slow build craft stuff, and that's also why I like easy modes. Is just like my attention span's lower. I just want to get to the end the fun part sooner. Damn it. No,
yeah, I always wonder if my brain has been sort of poisoned by the battle pass stuff or the roguelite stuff where it's more bite-sized game.
Sure.
But it's like, is it actually that, or is it just I'm getting older and I just want more bite-sized bits of gameplay versus, like I was saying earlier, committing 4 hours to Baldur's Gate 3 so I can do this one quest and talk to 90 characters for 30 minutes each because you have to, because the dialogue is so expansive and cool. But also, like, I just don't have the time. I don't want to spend my time doing this. So it's like, what is it? Has my brain been rotted by the games industry? Or is it just, I just want more palatable, smaller gameplay experiences?
I think it's as most things, it's somewhere right in the middle. Because I do think that as you get older, the amount of time, like... It's not that I get bored. It's just like at some point I feel a little burnt out with the amount of focus some of those projects ask of you.
Yeah, maybe that's
and
it.
I just can't give that much of my energy and attention. And I know it sounds like the most first world problem ever, but like that's how I have been experiencing things of like, I just after a bit, I don't know, I just kind of need a minute away. And I don't know, is it just because my attention span is like just, I need to do other things and look at a phone and look at this and look at that. And like, I think my brain has been a little molded by the modern technology age in some way. I think it's naive to assume that it's just being older. But I do think being older, you appreciate, like, you don't need the next experience you have to last you 100 hours. You don't need that anymore because you can just, like, as soon as you get bored and want to buy something, like, who's stopping you except your own personal, like, feelings about it? Whereas as a kid, it's like, who knows when the next time you'll get a good game. So you hope to stretch this one out forever. I used to be a huge trophy hunter, as you know, achievement guy.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know when it happened, but something broke where there were games that I used to. It wasn't that I bought bad games to play for achievements, but like I would play just about anything that is like people say is good. Oh, there's achievements too. It's like, okay, sure, why not? Let's add it to that's a good incentive to get me, but those incentives just don't do anything for me anymore. Like the dopamine receptors in my brain are so fried from like that level of like plinks just don't mean anything, and that's made me like reckon with the like, why am I doing this? What are the carrots at the end of these sticks? Because like,
I think
go ahead.
I think it is maturity, because that sort of thing is a very fleeting and surface level achievement, no pun intended. Getting, achievement hunting, maxing out the list of like, just check marks to complete. Like that's the type of thing that I feel like, if we're going to use a term like brain rotted, people who've been brain rotted, that's the type of stuff they do. Like the Korean MMO grinders and battle pass obsessive people. It's like, oh, gotta get that next level, gotta get that next thing. That to me is more brain rotted than just going like, no, that shit doesn't matter. I'm just enjoying the moment to moment gameplay, which is where we are now as adults, is like, I am enjoying gameplay of games, and that's what I keep going back to. Like it's, and maybe that's part of the problem with story-driven games that I can't really bring myself to commit a lot of time and energy to, is that like the moment-to-moment isn't quite, I like that I used the word palatable earlier because it feels appropriate. It's not as palatable to me, the moment-to-moment stuff, because it has to be strung together for longer periods of time. Like, just walking around in Baldur's Gate 3 isn't that fun. It's like talking to the characters and discovering their personalities and maybe finding a quest to then have to go do that. It's like, you have to string together a lot more things to get that enjoyable experience. To me, of course, other people might totally disagree. Maybe they love just walking around in Baldur's Gate, but like I didn't. So, yeah, like I don't know, just being able to sit down and have a gameplay experience that's like, oh, that's cool, and then be done with it. I like that more, and it feels maybe more mature than achievement trophy hunting or battle pass grinding or checking a box.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think about why I played Eternal for so long. Yeah. I have like 700 hours in that game.
Me too. Yeah.
And like you think about it, it isn't popular enough to have a lot of that stuff in it, and it's just like I just like card games so goddamn much. There's something about engines coming online, synergies, things triggering. I have an the stack is like an orgasm.
That's why the bazaars can be so fun if you get the right run. Right. It's a little too RNG heavy right now, but in its prime state, like 2 months ago, it was phenomenal.
That's why, like, if a Magic Arena had an Eternal Gauntlet, or like how MTG Forge has like kind of like this their own Chandelier remake spinoff where it's just like, wandering around battling bots, getting random packs of cards. Like if these companies did it, do you know how much money I would spend? Like I would give Arena money instead of now where I don't, because I'm like, I'm not gonna play shit against people. Same with Marvel Snap. If there was some kind of like just I've always been this way. I think what's interesting is I think you are starting to be less kind of sucked into the PvP world. You still are competitive minded, but you definitely have a lot less, I'll say or like the experience that you want is just different than it used to be. Fuck, I kind of lost where I was going with that, but, the moral of the story is that
PvE is ruler. Yeah, I mean, and if it is PvP, again, mention the Bazaar. They do the asynchronous PvP where they take a snapshot of somebody's build from a previous time and then they pit you against it. So you're not. It's like, it's not like Magic where you're playing against someone who's being an asshole. You're playing against someone who's doing this specific strategy that irks you, and you go like, "Fuck this guy! I hate them." It's in the Bazaar, it's like, this is the ghost is what they call it of somebody. I'm not looking at somebody, I'm not staring at the same screen at the same time someone else is. This is just a snapshot of their build. They might have played this 2 weeks ago, and this is their they're Ghost from back then. Who knows? That's the asynchronous PvP where you get the bit that is like a real human making the best choice, but you also don't have to play against them specifically and have somebody to be mad at, right? It's a very cool system that I think needs to be popularized more, but it does require a specific game. Like the way the Bazaar has the items and stuff is the only reason it works. You couldn't have an asynchronous Magic the Gathering game. Like, you just can't do that. So, yeah, I guess I don't know where I'm going with this point either. We both kind of lost our train of thought. We just have stuff to say, but don't know how to wrap it up.
I do think that's something that I wish I was able to transport a lot of the games that are PvP focused into these other environments, because that's the stuff that really gets me going, is this kind of like, I've always kind of been a completionist, or at least have some kind, I play these games, I know that like the game itself is the reward, but that's why I've always liked RPGs, because you're always leveling something up, increasing a number, learning a new passive, upgrading your armor, right? I'm always chasing carrots in some ways. But this is what the original point was about the carrot chasing.
Yeah. Which also, this all spawned from a question that I can't remember anymore.
It literally doesn't matter anymore.
Difficulty sliders? I think we're talking about difficulty sliders. I think we're still on that question. All right, let's do one more. I bet we can talk for another 20 fucking minutes about whatever the question is.
Okay, I'm going to try to find one more that was good. You
take your time, man. We'll sit here in silence.
Okay. Yeah, well, come on, you vamp. You're a professional. Did I have one more in here, or did I ask you all of them?
You only, okay. You said a list of 20 the other day, so I just thought that.
No, yeah, look, I dropped the 10 when I realized 20. I was like, well, if we talk for like 5 minutes at each.
Yeah, that's too much, yeah.
Because like, some of these, the idea is like, do you prefer co-op scaling or a finite number and then a bunch of people? Like, the idea is like, let's say like a
world boss versus
no, this will be my example that will be good because it's recent, is Elden Ring Night Rain does not scale. The idea is like, if you do it by yourself, it is 3 times as hard as it is with 3 people, because the boss has the same amount of HP regardless of the number of players in your match. Do you prefer that, or ones that scale up to down with the number of players? And the reason I ask this is I've been actually kind of an anti-scaler. I've been I figured out what my question was. I know what it is. How do you feel about level scaling in video games? The idea being that instead, I always like to, like, you imagine for Diablo 2 is like, Act 2 is levels between this and this. 4 is, 1 to 10, then it's 11 to 20, so on. But scaling games might be Act 1 starts at level 1 and then scales up to you. No matter what level you are, they will keep matching, so that it's always somewhat playable, but the enemies are not,
No. We hate level scaling here at the old Polk House.
Oh, thank God. At least now we spread it to 2 separate states, because Brianna's playing Oblivion Remastered. And let me tell you, Oblivion was like the first game that had like scaling that I encountered. And I remember hating it so much because like World of Warcraft introduced it, and it's one of the things that I think really rubbed me the wrong way. Is it's like the point of those games is it's supposed to be this escalating point of power. Why are you, if I'm stronger than there is content for you to be made, then like, okay, I guess I'm done. But if like everything is always as strong as me, I don't even feel rewarded for being stronger. That's a huge problem with Destiny as well. Is like, being stronger didn't do anything for me. It just meant if you were weak, you could play less content. That was the difference.
That's kind of awful. Is like power gating people so that you can't go forward unless you're strong enough. But then once you are strong enough, like, you can't go backwards because nothing feels weak anymore. Yeah, that was a huge problem with Diablo 4, and I think it still is, was the open world level scaling. They didn't want you to level yourself out of zones, which I guess that's a Blizzard problem, because if they did that in WoW, then of course they did that in Diablo 4, because they're fucking addicted to MMORPG design choices, even though they don't belong in games, like Diablo 4, for example, being awful in that regard.
I will go on record that I was wrong about Diablo 4. I thought I was excited about the design. They're like quasi like Path of Exile style world design. I think that it's fair, right? That they're similar in structure.
What?
Diablo
Open world
4 and
stuff?
Path of Exile, like in terms of like how the multiplayer is integrated, and like
No, not at all. Diablo 4 is kind of like Diablo 4 is like Lost Ark. Path of Exile is very much
yes,
like
okay, you're right.
I see what you're saying. Like bite, like no, it's all instanced. People can't just like appear in your zone and Path
you're
of
right.
Exile.
It is only
like
Lost Ark is definitely the one that's the perfect.
Which Lost
example,
Ark wasn't beating around the bush. They're like, no, we are an MMO ARPG. And Diablo 4 is like, we're an ARPG with MMO elements, which just means they made the ARPG experience worse. But sorry.
Yeah, and they brought in the MMO elements that you have to have, but they don't bring it. I wish I liked socializing more, or else this stuff would be more enticing. But like, I
don't know, the internet is so fucking toxic and horrible. It's like the worst it's ever been. So there's no point in even interacting really with people because you're not going to get anything out of it. And especially when they do it in a way that Diablo 4 is, where like you are powerful, so powerful that you kill everything. So as I'm running through a zone, I just see somebody appear out of nowhere and kill a mob that I can't kill because everyone kills everything instantly. So like, what is the point of even having this person on my screen? You're not going to talk to them. As soon as you go to the next screen, or 50 feet away, they disappear and they're instanced into someone else's now. So like, where is even the social aspect to this? You don't have to help each other. If anything, you're fighting over resources because you have to collect the same things I'm collecting in the same area. So now we're like the game just decided to make me not like this person who's collecting stuff that I need to collect. So it's like, I don't know. It's just a really, really, really bad mix of game design stuff, and Diablo 4, of course, just did it in a really lame, bad way. Lost Ark was similar, right? Like, I'm trying to fucking get this flower out of this bush, and I see somebody materialize in front of me and start farming it a half second before I can click on it, and now they get it and I don't. I'm like, what is... Oh, good job collecting that bush, man. Do you want to be friends? It's like, who's doing that? If anything, you send them a friend request or not a friend request, like a party request to save yourself the hassle of competing, and now you just share the quest state. And maybe that's their goal, is like frustrate people into cheating the system that these developers forced you in. That's like, it's just backwards ass shit, and it just doesn't feel good to play. You're not actually making friends doing this. You're just circumventing a bad system that the developers implemented. So like, even if you were social, you're not going to gain anything out of a game system like Lost Ark or like Diablo 4's. Then to circle this back to level scaling, right? Like, no matter now where you are, even if you're level 70 in a level 1 zone, you're going to start seeing other level 70s instanced into this zone because everyone can play everywhere. So like, you're always bombarded by people who are doing the same thing you are in the same way, but you're never feeling stronger really, but at the same time, you're always super strong. So like, I don't know, the game level scaling is just it's a confusing mess, and I really, really don't like it. I think my idea for Diablo 4 when it first came out and everyone realized how bad this system was almost immediately is like, just put caps on the zone. This zone scales from level 1 to 30. This zone scales from level 30 to 70. Like, this zone is from level 40 to 50. Like, what is the problem with that? I know it's open world, so they want people to constantly be circling back and going to the other area. They don't want you to go like, well, you only are here for, 20 minutes while you level 1 to 10, and then you never come back here. Like, we waste our time developing the zone and making it look cool if you're only here for 20 minutes. So, like, make every area always playable, always. But it just doesn't feel good. And people are going to see the zones when they make new characters anyway, so it's not like you're going to waste your art development time.
If you're going to do scaling, it's just cap it at some point.
Yeah,
just don't make it indefinitely scaling up. At some point, like if I'm killing content that only 1% of WoW players are, but we're killing the I'm completing quests at the same speed as someone who's never done a raid in their life because both of their mobs are scaled to us directly is like, I don't know, man. I feel like I haven't progressed at all then, and like that's I don't know. I do wish that more games could use more of their real estate as like content, but at the same time, like I don't know, maybe we don't need to. I don't have a really good answer. Than, like maybe we just don't play games for hundreds of hours anymore.
Yeah,
maybe we don't need to play those.
The reality is there is no easy solution to this problem because like you kind of understand the one side where they want you to be able to. They don't want you to power yourself out of areas and just never have to go back there again. But at the same time, like you need people to feel like they are getting stronger and go back. I mean, nobody goes back to a zone to kill something just to feel strong, right? Like you don't do that. But there's a lot of incidental value in like, oh, I remember when that enemy was kind of hard and now it's instantly blowing up. Cool. So I don't know what the solution is either. I think it's just get rid of level scaling. Make a world that's big enough and compelling enough that they don't, you don't have to repeat the same zones, or almost like the Helltide in Diablo 4 would have been the perfect way to circumvent level scaling. So like, instead of making every zone scale to your level always, make each zone specific levels 1 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 25, 30 to 40. And then when the Helltide comes, which is like a world event, then it automatically scales the zone that the Helltide is in up to your level. So then you have an excuse to go back to old zones that you have previously out-leveled because of this Helltide, but then you also still get the effect of like having players feel stronger if they do go back to that zone and it isn't a Helltide at the time, right? So I think having an event that changes the nature of the world is cool and a good way to kind of add power to a zone that previously is now depowered because you're so strong. I think they could have just stuck with that and been fine. They have the systems in place. They're just not doing them right. This is talking about Diablo 4 specifically, but I think it applies in large to, like World of Warcraft. If you're in a zone and you're killing the same boar at level 70 that some level 2 is killing because you need the material, but like you're killing it at the same speed, like that just feels fucking weird and bad. They need to instance things differently. Have the boar zone that you have to go back to now be affected by some other dimensional power so that it's like there's a reason this boar is stronger. But then in the level 2's world, who's right next to you, he doesn't see that other dimensional power. So like, I don't know. There's probably clever ways around it, but I'm not.
Actually, Blizzard has that technology. It's called sharding, and you can kind of. The idea is like there would be certain quest lines that change like the way a town might appear, and if you're too far ahead in the quest line and someone in your party's behind, you will both be in the same spot, but you can't interact with each other or see each other because one's in the version where the town's burned down, the other one isn't. So they can do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
There you go. But okay,
I think we're done.
Fuck level scaling.
Yeah, fuck level scaling.
Those are just some random ones. I could come up with some more in the future. The last one I had that I didn't. This is more of like a preview of what I thought of maybe I could do. Is like this idea of like if you're playing a shooter that's like campaign driven, let's say, just do missions or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you want like it to be like a very grounded military shooter? Or do you want stuff with like abilities, with like cooldowns, throwing a grenade, a double jump? Like, would you rather have something that felt like a Call of Duty 4 campaign or more like hero shootery?
Well,
what are those?
I'm going to give the same answer I keep giving is that like it depends on the game. I don't know.
Like if a game doesn't have abilities, I'm out is my basic idea.
Okay, there we go. That's clear. No, I don't think I would have a bias one way or the other. I like abilities, they're fun, but yeah, if like I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare, not Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
Like the 2018 one
yeah,
or whatever.
And like, it was a really cool, fun, good campaign. And it was just a ground up military campaign. But I like shooters, and I liked, the graphics were good. The story was cool. The gameplay was really interesting. It was just good and well done. And of course, I didn't miss character abilities because that's not the game I was playing. But then you have something like Delta Force, which came out, and it's kind of modern military, but it's somewhat sci-fi, and you have abilities that modify the gameplay in a futuristic way that's not Call of Duty style, and like that's really fun too and has its own place, and I like it. So yeah, for me, I don't have that heavy of a bias. I'm trying to think of an example where I might, but in terms of at least shooters, yeah, it depends on the game that it is. I'm not just gonna say no to a game because the characters don't have abilities like you might, but I'm not sure. I guess
against you if you don't have abilities.
It'd be like if an ARPG just didn't have randomized loot; it was all fixed. Then I might just go, "Oh no, I don't think I want to play that." So maybe that's my version. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you do have it, but all right, that was my cut down list for today.
Nice, that was fun. That was cool.
Well, maybe we'll do something like this again in the future because a lot of the conversation weren't even necessarily directly on these. Let me see. I want to make sure I didn't miss any quick ones.
There's no such thing as quick with us.
Oh, that's true. Okay. I forgot I put best mulligan rule, but no, we'll say that for MTG
that's
podcast.
Yeah, that would be even more niche.
So hyper specific, nerdy.
Yeah.
Holy.
No, that's cool. I just vote we end it here. This is a good, 90-minute discussion. I had a lot of fun. This was, what do we call this? Just like game design choices discussion, basically.
Yeah,
it was cool.
Like kind of more general. That's it.
Good idea.
Yeah,
I brought nothing to the table except answering your questions. You did the heavy lifting. So
I like asking questions, and then I don't have to do any of the work. So take the credit, you fucking idiot.
All right. Well, good game. GG's. That was fun.
All right. Until next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
See you.